My name is Daniel, and I never thought I'd be the kind of man who would one day sit down and tell the world how his wife destroyed him. But sometimes silence is more painful than words. Sometimes the things you don't see coming are the ones that tear your soul apart. From the outside, my life looked perfect. I was married to Claire, the woman I believed was my soulmate. She was beautiful, sharp-tongued, but sweet when she wanted to be, and everyone in my circle admired her. Together, we had built what looked like a picture-perfect marriage, two good careers, a comfortable home, and dreams of starting a family. I worked as a financial consultant. My job was demanding, often requiring late nights, endless meetings, and occasional business trips. Claire was a marketing executive. She had her own busy schedule, but somehow we made it work. Or at least I thought we did. Looking back, the first cracks in our marriage weren't loud or obvious. They were small. A missed dinner date here, an excuse about being too tired to talk there. Claire started spending more time on her phone, scrolling, smiling at messages she wouldn't share with me. At first, I brushed it off. We'd been together long enough that comfort had replaced constant curiosity. But one evening, something felt different. I came home late after closing a big deal at work, and I expected Claire to be happy, excited, maybe even proud. Instead, I found her sitting on the couch, glued to her phone. "Claire," I said softly, putting down my briefcase. "Guess what? We finally landed the Hensley account. This could be huge for us." She barely looked up. Just a faint, distracted smile. "That's great, babe." Her tone was flat, detached, almost as if she were somewhere else. I tried to ignore the sinking feeling. Maybe she was tired. Maybe it was just a long day at work. But then she quickly tilted her phone away from me when I sat next to her. And that tiny gesture hit me harder than her indifference. For the first time in years, I felt like a stranger in my own home. Days turned into weeks, and her behavior became more distant. She started working late more often, claiming she had urgent projects. Weekends, she'd find excuses to go out shopping alone or meet with her so-called friends. One Friday night, I suggested we have a date night, just the two of us like old times. She gave me that half-hearted smile again and said, "I'm sorry, Daniel. I already promised Lily I'd meet her for drinks. You don't mind, right?" I forced a smile. "Of course not. You deserve to have fun." But deep down, something twisted inside me. Because Lily, the friend she mentioned, had already told me earlier in the week that she was flying to another city to visit her family. That night, while Claire was out with Lily, I sat in the dark of our living room, staring at the clock, feeling like I was slowly suffocating. My wife was lying to me. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. You see, I'm not the kind of man who explodes in rage. I'm not the kind who screams or accuses without proof. I believe silence is power. And if Claire thought she could outsmart me, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. One Sunday morning, I tested her without making it obvious. "Claire," I said, casually stirring my coffee, "we should invite Lily and her husband for dinner next week. It's been a while." Her face froze. Just for a second. Then she quickly plastered on a smile. Sure. Let me check with her first. You know how busy she gets." That moment told me everything I needed to know. She was hiding something. And if she could lie about a simple thing like her friend, what else was she lying about? I started watching her more closely. The secretive smiles at her phone. The way she'd excuse herself to take calls in another room. The way she suddenly started dressing up more when going to the office. One night, after she fell asleep, I checked her purse. Inside, I found a receipt for a hotel bar 2 towns away. The date and time matched the night she told me she was working late. My chest tightened. My hands trembled. But I didn't wake her. I just sat there in silence, holding the receipt, realizing that the woman I gave my heart to was cheating behind my back. You'd expect me to confront her right away, right? to demand answers, to scream at her, to throw her out. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled the next morning like nothing was wrong. I kissed her forehead, wished her a good day at work, and walked out the door. While my mind was already weaving a plan. If Claire thought I was going to crumble, if she thought I'd be her fool, she was mistaken. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to destroy her silently, piece by piece, until she had no idea what hit her. And my revenge had already begun. That night, I followed her. She said she had a late meeting with a client. I kissed her cheek, wished her luck, and pretended to settle into the couch with a glass of wine. But as soon as the door shut, I grabbed my keys and followed her car from a distance. My heart pounded as I watched her drive, not toward her office, but to that same hotel from the receipt. She walked inside, her heels clicking, her hair perfect, her dress tighter than what she ever wore for me. And then, I saw him, a man waiting at the bar, smiling at her the way a husband should. She leaned in, touched his arm, and laughed like she hadn't laughed with me in months. That was the moment my world shattered. But I didn't storm inside. I didn't confront them. I just stood outside, watching silently, because my silence was my weapon. And soon, it would destroy everything she thought she had. That night, standing outside the hotel, I swore to myself Claire had no idea that while she was betraying me, I was already setting into motion a plan so silent, so devastating, that it would leave her life in ruins. That night, after watching Claire walk into that hotel bar with him, I drove back home in silence. My grip on the steering wheel was tight, but my face was calm. Most men would have stormed inside, punched the guy, dragged their wife out by the arm, and screamed for answers. But me? No, that would give her power. That would make me look desperate, weak, broken. I wanted Claire to think she had the upper hand. I wanted her to believe she was clever, that I was clueless. That way, when the truth finally crushed her, it would break her from the inside out. When she came home later that night, around midnight, she smelled faintly of expensive perfume and wine. She slipped into bed, turned her back toward me, and whispered, "Long day." "Good night." I whispered back, "Good night, love." She had no idea that I had seen everything. The next few days, I played my part as the perfect husband. I cooked breakfast, sent her sweet good morning texts, and even surprised her with flowers at her office. She looked startled, almost guilty, when I showed up, but I brushed it off with a smile. Her colleagues smiled at me, saying, "You're such a thoughtful husband." If only they knew the truth. That evening, I started gathering evidence quietly. I wasn't going to accuse her without proof, not because I needed it for myself, but because I wanted to make sure when her world collapsed, there was no escape, no denial, no lies left for her to hide behind. I installed a small GPS tracker in her car. I added a discreet recording app to the iPad we shared. I went through our joint bank statements with a sharper eye. And within days, the puzzle started putting itself together. She wasn't just cheating. She was funding parts of their affair with our money. Fancy hotel dinners, little gifts, even a weekend getaway she claimed was a marketing seminar. Each piece of evidence was like a knife in my chest. But instead of bleeding, I collected every blade. Because soon, I was going to turn those knives back on her. One Saturday, Claire told me she had to work late on a campaign deadline. I kissed her cheek, told her good luck, and watched her drive off. Then I waited 10 minutes before following. This time, she didn't go to the hotel. She drove to a quiet neighborhood, parked, and walked into a house. His house. I parked a block away and watched. For hours, the lights inside flickered. Kitchen, living room, bedroom. Bedroom. I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My wife wasn't just having an affair. She was practically living another life. When she finally drove home around midnight, I was already there, pretending to be asleep on the couch. She slipped inside quietly, thinking I hadn't noticed. But what she didn't know was that I had already taken pictures. her car outside his house, her walking into his front door. Time stamped, undeniable. And with every photo, my plan grew sharper. The next morning at breakfast, I looked at her and smiled. "Claire," I said casually, "do you ever think about us? About where we're headed?" She blinked, startled. "What do you mean?" "Well, we've been married for 6 years now. I was just wondering if you're happy with me, with us." Her spoon clattered slightly against the bowl. "Of course I'm happy, Daniel. Why would you ask that?" I shrugged, sipping my coffee. "I don't know. Just making sure." She forced a smile and leaned over to kiss me. "You worry too much." But I saw it in her eyes. A flicker of guilt, or maybe fear. And I knew, deep down, part of her was already wondering if I suspected. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started planting seeds. Subtle ones. I told her I had to start working late too. That I had dinners with clients. That I'd be home late some nights. I watched her carefully when I said it, and she nodded quickly, almost relieved. "Of course, babe," she said. "I understand." That relief on her face told me everything. She thought my late nights gave her more freedom to sneak away. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted her to believe. One evening, while she was out with him, I made a quiet visit to his workplace. I had done my research. His name was Jason. He was a regional sales manager at a company not far from Claire's office. Divorced, no kids, decent salary, but not enough to afford the lifestyle he was suddenly showing off. Expensive watches, weekend trips, fancy dinners. I wondered how much of that Claire was paying for. I introduced myself to one of his colleagues under the pretense of a potential business partnership. We had a casual chat, and I dropped subtle questions about Jason. It didn't take. Long before the colleague laughed and said, "Jason's been different lately. Must be that new girlfriend of his. Shows up at company parties with her sometimes. Real classy woman." My blood boiled. He was parading her around. My wife. Pretending she was his. But instead of rage, I smiled. Because this was useful information. At home, I started keeping a separate journal. Not for myself, but for evidence. Dates, times, places. Every lie she told me, I recorded it alongside where she really was. Every receipt, every bank charge, every message I managed to intercept, I stored it all. I was building a case. Not just a case to confront her, but a case to destroy her. Because when I finally revealed what I knew, I didn't want it to just end in an argument. I wanted her reputation gone, her lover exposed, her career threatened. And I wanted her to feel the same crushing betrayal I felt every single night she walked out the door. Then came the night that changed everything. Claire walked in late, her hair messy, her lipstick smudged. She froze when she saw me awake in the living room. "Oh, you're still up?" she asked nervously. I smiled gently. "Yeah, just couldn't sleep." She walked past me quickly, heading to the bathroom. But as she did, her phone buzzed in her purse. I glanced at the screen. It was a message from Jason. "Can't stop thinking about tonight. Same time tomorrow?" My chest tightened, but I kept my face calm. When she came out, I handed her purse to her with a smile. "You left this here." She smiled back, relieved. "Thanks, babe." Little did she know, I had already memorized the message. And I knew exactly what I had to do next. That night, as Claire drifted off to sleep beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I wasn't just going to watch anymore. Tomorrow, I was going to step directly into their little fantasy world and tear it apart from the inside. The next evening, Claire dressed more carefully than usual. A black dress, heels, a touch of perfume she never wore around me. "Big meeting?" I asked casually, watching her in the mirror. She froze for a second before smiling. Ah, yeah. Dinner with some clients. Don't wait up, okay? Of course, I said smoothly, kissing her cheek. Good luck, love. Inside, my stomach twisted, but my face, calm, always calm. The moment she drove off, I followed. Her car didn't head toward the downtown business district where clients usually met. No, it rolled straight toward that quiet neighborhood, the one I already knew too well. Jason Street. Jason's house. I parked 2 blocks away, heart pounding. I waited, letting her settle inside. Then I walked up to his house. My plan wasn't to barge in like some jealous husband. That would make me look weak, desperate. No, my plan was precision. To strike at the perfect moment. And as luck or fate would have it, that moment came faster than I expected. Through the slightly open curtains, I saw them. Claire laughing on Jason's couch. Her head tilted back, his hand on her knee. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to stay composed. I took photos, each one clearer than the last. Then I saw Jason lean in and kiss her. She kissed him back. Passionate. I swallowed hard. This was it. The undeniable proof. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, walked up the porch, and knocked. The laughter inside stopped instantly.
A pause.
Then footsteps. Jason opened the door, his smile fading the moment he saw me. Can I help you? Claire appeared behind him, her face draining of color like blood rushing out of her body. Daniel? She whispered. I smiled calmly, as if I were visiting an old friend. Hey, sweetheart. I thought you said you had a client dinner? Jason stepped forward, trying to block me. Look, man, this isn't a good time. But I pushed past him and walked into the living room. The wine glasses on the table. The half-empty bottle. The dim lights. The blanket on the couch. It was all there. The scene of betrayal. Claire's hands trembled. Daniel, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed. Cold. Sharp. Claire, don't insult me. I've been watching you for weeks. I know everything. The dinners. The hotel. The weekends here. Her eyes widened in horror. You knew? Yes, I said, pulling out my phone. And I've got the proof. I showed them the photos. Her car outside his house. Their kiss through the window. Every message, every timestamp. Jason swore under his breath, rubbing his face. Damn it, Claire. Claire reached for me, tears in her eyes. Daniel, please, I can explain. I stepped back. Explain what? That you've been living a double life? That you've been using our money to fund his dinners, his gifts? Jason's head snapped toward her. Wait, our money? I smirked. Oh, you didn't know? She's been draining our joint account to spoil you. Every penny. You thought you had a sugar mama, huh? Hate to break it to you, but half that money was mine. Jason glared at her. Are you serious, Claire? She stammered. Jason, I just wanted. But I cut her off. Save it. You're both pathetic. The silence that followed was heavy. Claire's face crumbled, tears streaming down. Jason looked furious, but not at me, at her. You told me you were handling everything, Jason snapped. You didn't say you were stealing from your husband. I laughed bitterly. Funny, isn't it? She lies to everyone. To me. To you. That's who she is. Claire turned to me desperately. Daniel, please. We can fix this. Don't do this to us. Us? I repeated, my voice like ice. There is no us. Not anymore. I pulled a small envelope from my jacket and dropped it on the table. Inside were divorce papers. Signed! Ready? Her eyes widened in shock. You already prepared these? Yes, I said coldly. The moment I confirmed your affair. You're out, Claire. And don't think for a second you're walking away clean. Because I'm taking everything. The house. The accounts. And I'll make sure your family, your friends, your colleagues, they all know exactly who you really are. Jason muttered something under his breath and grabbed his coat. You're on your own, Claire. He stormed past us, slamming the door behind him. Claire collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Daniel, please. Don't leave me. I made a mistake. I'll fix it, I swear. I looked down at her, my heart pounding but my face calm. No, I said quietly. You broke something that can never be fixed. Then I turned and walked out of that house, leaving her shattered in the ruins of her lies. That night, I didn't go home. I booked a hotel room. Slept alone. For the first time in months, I felt strangely free. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because destroying her marriage was just the beginning. My real revenge, the one that would leave her life in ashes, was only starting. As I stared at the divorce papers on the desk, I made a vow. Claire wouldn't just lose me. She would lose everything. The morning after I caught Claire with Jason, I woke up in my hotel room with a strange clarity. I wasn't just going to divorce her. No, that would be too easy. Too merciful. She had to feel what I felt. Betrayal. Loss. Emptiness. But most importantly, she had to watch her carefully constructed life collapse in silence, piece by piece. The first step was money. Claire had always been careless with finances, trusting me to manage everything. Our accounts were joint, but most of the savings came from my years of work, investments, and discipline. Before confronting her last night, I had already spoken with my lawyer. That envelope with divorce papers wasn't just a scare tactic, it was real. And my lawyer had ensured the accounts were frozen until settlement. Claire, the woman who lived off expensive clothes, dinners, and fake prestige, suddenly had no access to the money she thought was hers. By noon that day, my lawyer confirmed. Her cards had been declined. I imagined her standing at some boutique counter, trying to swipe her card and failing. The panic in her eyes. The embarrassment. It made me smile. Next was reputation. Claire lived for appearances. She wanted the world to see her as the perfect wife, the devoted partner, the woman everyone admired. I wasn't about to shout her betrayal from rooftops. No, that would give her a chance to defend herself, to spin lies. Instead, I planted seeds. Quietly. I invited her family over for a serious talk. Her parents. Her younger sister. We sat in the living room, and I showed them the photos. The proof. Her mother gasped, covering her mouth. Her father shook his head in disgust. Her sister muttered, Claire, how could you? I didn't even raise my voice. I simply explained, calmly, how long the affair had gone on. How she lied every day. By the time Claire arrived, confused, flustered, they were already waiting. Claire, her father said coldly, we raised you better than this. She tried to speak, but her sister cut her off. Don't. We've seen the pictures. Claire turned to me, eyes burning. You did this? I smiled politely. I didn't do anything, Claire. You did. She broke down, begging her parents to listen. But they left, disappointed. Her support system gone in one afternoon. Then came Jason, the man she had thrown our marriage away for. The man she thought would stand by her. But Jason wanted nothing to do with her once he realized she was using stolen money. A week after the confrontation, I heard through mutual friends that Jason had blocked her number, that he had moved on. She had risked everything for him, and he left her the moment things got complicated. I couldn't have planned it better myself. But I wasn't done. The real blow was yet to come. Claire worked at a marketing firm. Her job wasn't extraordinary, but she prided herself on being a professional woman. Unfortunately for her, office gossip spreads fast, especially when someone like me, calm, respected, credible, quietly slips evidence into the right inboxes. A few discreet emails, a few forwarded pictures. Nothing dramatic, just information. By the end of the week, whispers followed her everywhere. Her boss called her in for a serious discussion about her personal choices affecting company reputation. She came home that night pale and trembling, slamming doors, muttering curses under her breath. I simply sipped my tea, pretending not to notice. Every night, she tried to talk to me. "Daniel, please. I was stupid. I love you. I can change. Don't destroy me like this." But I stayed silent. Or worse, I gave her a polite smile and said, "Good night, Claire." And that silence hurt her more than any screaming ever could. The final step was the house. Our home. The place she decorated, showed off on social media, invited friends to. It was in my name. And the divorce settlement was leaning in my favor. One morning, as she sipped coffee at the kitchen counter, I walked in with a folded paper. "What's that?" she asked cautiously. "Notice," I said simply. "You have 2 weeks to move out." Her mug slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor. "Daniel, you can't. This is my home too." I looked at her, calm and steady. "No, Claire. It was our home. You traded it away the moment you betrayed me." She collapsed into tears, begging, pleading, promising anything. But I turned and walked out, leaving her in the ruins of her own choices. Day by day, she unraveled. No money, no lover, no reputation, no family support, no home. And all the while, I didn't raise my voice once. That was the beauty of it. My silent revenge wasn't about shouting, fighting, or chaos. It was about letting her destroy herself and making sure everyone could see the truth. But just when I thought I had won, something happened that changed everything. Something I hadn't planned for. One evening, as I was preparing to leave the house for good, Claire showed up at the door, holding something in her hand that made my blood run cold. I was packing my last suitcase when the knock came. It was late, almost 10 p.m. The house was dark except for the soft glow of the living room lamp. I had already signed the final divorce papers that morning, and my lawyer confirmed everything was settled. I was ready to close this chapter forever. But when I opened the door, Claire stood there. Her hair was messy, her eyes bloodshot, and her hands shook as she clutched something small and rectangular. A pregnancy test. "Daniel," she whispered, voice cracking. "It's positive." My heart froze. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The months of planning, the revenge, the carefully orchestrated silence, it all shattered in an instant. Was this true? Or another manipulation? I clenched my jaw. "And whose child is it, Claire?" Tears streamed down her face. "Yours." "I swear it's yours, Daniel. I made mistakes, but this baby, it's ours. Please, don't leave me like this." I stared at her, trying to read her expression. Every instinct screamed that it was another lie. A desperate attempt to pull me back. But then, what if it wasn't? I let her inside. She sat on the couch, trembling, holding her stomach as if to remind me that something fragile was there. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she whispered. "But don't punish the child for my sins. Please. Daniel, you're not cruel." "I know you're not." Her words stabbed me. Because she was right. I wasn't cruel. My revenge had been silent, calculated, but never violent. Never heartless. And if this child really was mine, could I abandon it to punish her? The next day, I insisted on going with her to the doctor. The test was confirmed. She was pregnant. 6 weeks. Which meant, yes, it could be mine. I sat there in the sterile white room, my head spinning. My plan had been simple: leave her in ruins, walk away clean. But now? Now there was an innocent life tied to me, whether I liked it or not. Claire reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I'll take care of the baby," I said flatly. "But don't mistake that for forgiving you." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. "That's all I ask." Weeks passed. I moved out, but I kept contact, strictly about the pregnancy. I paid for checkups, made sure she had what she needed. But I never once told her I loved her again. And she felt it. Every time I left the room without saying goodbye. Every time I answered her messages with cold, one-line responses. Every time I stood at the edge of the doctor's office but never sat beside her. It broke her more than any words ever could. Her family refused to support her. Her job let her go after the gossip ruined her reputation. Jason had vanished. She was utterly, painfully alone. And she knew it was her fault. One night, she called me in tears. "Daniel, I can't do this by myself. Please, move back in, just until the baby comes. I need you." I paused, then gave her the same calm tone I'd used since the day I found out. "No, Claire. You chose this path. I'll provide for my child, but not for you." She broke down, sobbing so hard I thought she might faint. But I stayed silent. Months later, the baby was born. A boy. And when I held him in my arms for the first time, something inside me cracked. He was so small, so innocent, with no idea of the chaos that had created him. I promised him silently, "You will never suffer for her sins. I'll be the father you deserve." Claire reached for my hand again, hopeful. "Daniel, maybe we can be a family again?" I looked at her, and for once, I let my emotions show. "No, Claire. Families are built on trust. And you destroyed that the moment you betrayed me. I'll raise my son, but I'll never be your husband again." Her face crumbled. She realized then that this was her final punishment. She hadn't just lost her marriage. She had lost me completely. My revenge was never about destroying her. It was about making her face the emptiness she created with her own choices. And now, as I rocked my son to sleep, I finally felt peace. Claire lived in ruins, alone, with nothing but the echo of her own mistakes. And I had a future. Not with her, but with the child who gave my life a new meaning. That was the ultimate revenge. Not anger. Not shouting. Just silence. She cheated behind my back. But in the end, my silent plan didn't just ruin her life, it gave me a new one.